one of the things that I think comes up a lot, particularly from the buyer side, is this: they have a hard time finding an acreage. You know, can you speak to that? What you see from the buyer side, and then maybe the scarcity of those acreages?
Yes, I would definitely say one of the factors that people really look for with an acreage is finding one on a hard surface road. That is, we always have a list of people that are looking for an acreage on a hard surface road with 1 to 5 acres. That's probably something that comes up almost weekly from buyers, which those are very hard to come across. I think people have a hard time parting with acreages. The land has just increased so much in price that they feel that if they hold on to it, that in a couple of years, the cost per acre will increase, and then they're sitting on their own gold mine, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that just makes it really hard for people to find what they're looking for.
Yeah, and one of the things that has also increased, I would say, the scarcity is the different counties, you know, in the area here have put in some different rules and regulations, so to speak, about, you know, if you're going to split off a piece of land, you have to have so many acres, you know, anywhere from like Jones County at 10 continuous acres, Lynn County is at 35 continuous acres, and there's different rules per county. But so you might see a lot of these, I call them the road frontage acreages, where they're in they're right off the road, and there's crop ground behind it or pasture behind it, but they got split off at some point, and that person might have 3, 5, 10, 15 acres.
Yeah.
But they can't do that today if they have that 40-acre parcel, right? And so that makes it where there's not as many of those coming up, and the demand has continued to increase, but it's harder and harder for people to have an acreage, so to speak, right?
And the affordability when you have to buy 40 acres, that's a lot of money when you're averaging, you know, 8 to 10,000 per acre, depending on where you're at.
Yep.
And such, and that gets to be a pretty hefty price tag for people.
Yeah, and another thing that I think I've heard people when they're looking at, you know, they even someone who wants like an acre lot in a development, like, well, why doesn't the developer, you know, make these acre lots? And the developer, when they're having to spend so much money now on land, they're probably looking at it that if I split this into 30-acre lots, you know, versus 1 acre, I'm not going to get 3 times as much for that 1 acre lot as I would 3-acre lots.
Yeah, very true.
1/3 acre lots. Yeah. And so, you know, to find something that's an acre plus, whether it's just even in a development or out in the country, just becomes harder and harder.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then also I find that, I don't know if you see this, but buyers then say they want an acreage, but then when they go out and look, they're going to compare that house to a non-acreage house, and they're going to compare their price, and they say, well, that house was $250 in town, this exact same house pretty much, and they have 10 acres. So if I take 10 acres times 8, it's only worth $80,000 more, right?
Right.
And that's where it's hard for them to come up with the valuation of the price.
Yes.
But for the seller, supply and demand.
Exactly. And you tend to find the acres that you're looking for, like if you want 10 acres or something, you'll find something like that. But then the house might be from 1910 and needs a lot of updating. So then you're debating on, well, do I want those acres, or do I want a house that I don't have to put any work into? Or, you know, then like you say, then they're comparing finding a brand new house in town that is exactly what they wanted, but then it doesn't have the land. So there are just so many different factors that you have to take into consideration too with acreages. Yeah.
And I you know, one last point on that is, I think, one, for sellers, you know, if you have an acreage that's out there, you know, there's always a demand for those. Now, does your home meet up with the demands of the people who are looking, like you said, on hard surface road and how much land they have? But for buyers, if you're looking for a property that's been built in the last 5 or 10 years and you're looking for an acreage, those are even rarer. Like you said, most of them are going to be houses built in 2000 for like late 90s and earlier.
For sure.
For sure.